Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, appreciate you guys stopping by very much. As you guys do know, we still have 4 days until we have the Champions Chess Tour Finals coming up. So I went ahead and went back in time and got the second ever matchup between Wesley and Eugene Torre, just because, man, just doing some throwbacks. So this is taken from 2008. This is the Philippines Championships. Wesley at this point, this is April of 2008. He just got his, Grandmaster title. Either it was late 2007 when he qualified, so I'm not sure if he got it in late 2007 or early 2008, but he was a Grandmaster by this point. So it is a true battle of the Grandmasters. New school versus old school. So for all of my people in the Philippines, I would say Maligan Young Pak Dating sa my chess, ladies and gentlemen. Maraming salamat po sa nanonood ng king my video. Masaya ko makikinig muli. Hello, you lit. Magandang umaga, magandang po, magandang araw, magandang gabi. Kamusta na aking mga kaibigan? Appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. Ingat lagi mabuting pagbati to you. We are going to go ahead and see who is malakas in this one. If you guys are ready to go, like I'm ready to go, let me just touch this down just a touch. I'm trying to make sure my hat's getting the picture. Maybe I have to move my hats down a touch. I don't know. It's not working right in the back. Anyway, I'm going to get it fixed. Anyway, if you guys are ready to go, let's take a look and see what we have for this game. So we have e4, e5, knight comes to f3. We got knight to c6. We got bishop to b5. We see a6. And this is the Roy López, and this is the Morphy defense. So we do have bishop back to a4. We see knight to f6, and then we do have castles by white. And for any of you that might be out there thinking that this looks kind of strange because like I'm just hanging a pawn on e4, right? Well, no, because the thing you have to be paying attention to is the fact that black's king is still stuck in the center of the board. So there is actually quite a bit of danger on the e file. So after we see knight taking e4, you see d4. You have some different options. I mean, you see rook to e1 a lot. D4 immediately comes. Sometimes to get the pawn back, you just take immediately with bishop takes c6. So there's a couple different options that you have. But we do have d4, which is the top move in the position. And then we do have b5, backing the bishop up to b3. There really isn't any other moves, unless you want to sacrifice the bishop for no reason. We have d5, and then we do have pawn takes e5. You do have your pawn back. Now, backing up here, this might be, kind of juicy for some people to consider because, you're going to be trading a bishop for a knight. But it actually doesn't work in this particular case because after knight to a5, you do see bishop to d5. So you are giving a nice attack on these two pieces here. So be careful with moving pieces multiple times out of the opening. But like I said, we do have pawn takes e5. We see bishop to e6, knight b to d2. We're trying to ask this knight what it wants to do. So we do see knight back to c5. We have c3, and now you have not only the option before of taking back with the knight here on d2, but also the queen. Kind of however you want to do. But in this particular position, the queen taking back would be a little bit dangerous after d4. So you have to be careful how you're taking stuff back. So knight takes b3, knight takes b3. We see bishop down to e7. Knight f comes to d4. And this is actually a really nice square. It's kind of like a little outpost square for black, or for white. You do have a little bit of problems after you take here with the knight. You got knight taking e6 here. Pawns having to take, and then you have f4. Your position is actually getting a little bit opened up. This pawn coming here, opening up the f file is making it possible to start pushing this pawn and get the position open. The queen could possibly come up here and stuff like that. So it's not a free pawn by any means. But we do see queen takes d7, and then the novelty of the game, we see knight taking c6. Of course, queen is going to take back on c6. We do see f4. So as you kind of see, I mean, you kind of do have, some possibilities of this pawn roll. So the queen comes back to d7. We see bishop to e3. And this is just doing a good job of preventing this move here. c5, if it was desirable. We do have a5 in the position. And we have actually reached the point in the game that if you do want to pause the video and see, this actually wasn't what was played in the game, but it is a very positional type of move. If you want to go ahead and pause the video and see if you can guess this move, go ahead and do so. Okay, so what we actually saw in the game was A4, and I will kind of get into A4 a little bit in a minute, but the really nice move is, like I said, it's a positional type of a move. And so the thing that you have to notice in the position automatically that should stand out to you is that black has double bishops. So you have a slight imbalance of minor pieces, which there's a bishop here and a knight here. So, you know, you guys notice automatically that's a little bit of a difference. Something else that you should notice is the fact that this position is somewhat open. There's not like a locked pawn center in the middle of the board, so it's not really favoring this knight too much. So a really nice attack for white is actually to go knight to c5 and fork the queen and this bishop, and, you know, ask this bishop if it wants to trade itself for this bishop. And this is just going to equalize the game a little bit more. And this is actually very strong for white. This is going to be forcing the trade of bishops, whether it's directly or with the situation, you know, after queen takes, you know, queen goes to c6, the knight can take on e6. And you also kind of have what's in the game. It is a trade, but I'll just show you the little bit of a difference between the trade that we see. And after knight takes e6, like I said, you got pawn taking e6. You do have this, you know, file open, half open. You know, the queen can possibly try to sneak in there, stuff like that. Like, you know, queen comes to g4 type situations and stuff. And so, you know, it is a lot more beneficial for white. Now, like I said, after we see a5, we actually see the move a4. Now, a4 actually does create a little bit of a problem for white, and I'm gonna get to that in a little bit. But we do have a4 with the idea of, if we do see pawn takes, we're gonna be seeing knight to d4, which is pretty much what we actually saw in the game. So we saw bishop down to g4, trying to, you know, inconvenience the queen. Queen coming up to d4, and you know, basically Wesley So's focus is trying to make sure that we prevent c5. c5 it's not a severe threat, but it's just kind of one of those moves where it just kind of grabs you some space. You know, maybe gives you the ability to knock this knight out the way, you know, get a little clamp down on the position and stuff like that. So it could be nice. We do see castles by black. We got h3. Bishop comes back to f5. We see queen down to d1. Pawn takes a4, and then we have knight to d4. You know, we're getting the bishop back this way. But the only problem is the thing that I was talking about before, as far as it being a little bit different. You guys noticed before that, you know, in this particular position, you know, after we saw the knight come to c5 and trade off and stuff like that here, you know, we don't have, you know, any situations where, you know, black can do any damage to us. And I mean, you know, we definitely have some points of interest as far as white is concerned, with like queen to g4 or checking and stuff here. You definitely have f5 that's possible to be coming and stuff like that, you know, creating some open lines. So this position is much different than the position that we actually got into after knight to d4. Yes, we are attacking this bishop, but the problem is you actually have given black a dynamic pawn, and that is a problem. So this position is actually slightly favored by black, and it is because of the move a3. Now, the problem with a3 now is you still have double bishops for black. So the problem is you can't just simply take this pawn here with the rook, because you're going to be dropping the exchange. So you're forced to I mean, you can throw knight takes f5 in there, which is what Wesley So did. After queen takes f5, you still are forced to take back with the pawn. So the problem now is the fact that you've allowed black, you know, because of giving them this dynamic pawn on you know, capturing on a4, you have given them the ability to now damage your pawn structure. So this position is definitely a little bit favorable for black. It's not like it's winning, but the positions that we saw before were just like monumentally winning for white. And, you know, the game has been basically shifted back into like equal territory. So this is just one of the things you have to think about when we're in this position here. Sometimes it can be pretty hard to try to calculate like that far into the game and try to think 3, 4, 5 moves down. Is this going to be something that's going to give my opponent some type of benefit? Now, I always talk about when you go into trades and stuff like that, you definitely have to be thinking about, if I go into this particular trade, am I giving my opponent anything? Am I maybe improving one of his pieces? You know, you definitely don't want to trade somebody's bad piece for your good piece, because you're just going to be basically getting rid of one of their problems. So when you're playing a chess game, you don't want to help your opponent literally in any way, because that's just going to help them win against you, and you don't want that. Like, so you know, like I said, a4, it's definitely kind of hard to see like 4 or 5 moves deep that this is actually going to be a problem after a3. So I mean, it can definitely, it's not the easiest thing to be able to calculate deep into a position and say, is this going to give my opponent something somewhere down the line? So that's the complications with chess, but that's just the way that it ended up being. Like I said, we did see pawn takes a3 in that position. And so we also now have given black the ability to have an open file for their rooks. So, I mean, black has definitely gotten a lot for that one pawn, you know, take on a4. So we do see rook f to d8. We see queen to d2. You know, c5 is a possibility, you know, and, you know, just basically just minimizing the effectiveness of this bishop. We see h5. h5 is a very like positional move, because white definitely wants to go g4. If they go g4 in the position without h5 having been played, they are gaining space. They are allowing their king a little bit of movability coming up, and they are, you know, knocking the queen somewhere. So h5 is a very like nice, you know, preventing of, you know, the expansion on the king side. So we do see queen to f2. We're trying to discourage c5 from being played. Rook a comes to b8. So like I said, rook is now capable of coming onto an open file. So, you know, because of the opening of the b file, the rooks are, you know, maximized and stuff like that. So we do see bishop to c5. Bishop takes c5. Queen takes c5. We see rook down to b2. And like I said, I mean, just from that simple a4 pawn push, you know, we've given, we gave black a dynamic pawn. We've given them an open file. Now we have in a situation where this rook is on the 7th. I mean, this queen, I mean, we're looking at some checkmate threats. So the position is dead even. But, I mean, like I said, you have given black a lot more than you'd like to give them in the game. Rook does come to f2, trying to encourage a trade. Rook takes f2, rook takes queen takes f2, and then you have the other rook coming to b8. So you see that black has taken full advantage of this file being open from earlier. Rook comes to f1. We see rook down to b1, just encouraging a series of trades. Rook takes b1, queen takes b1. We have king up to h2. Queen comes down to c1, and you know, you basically have white and black, you know, looking at trying to just kind of like snap pawns off the board. So we do see queen to d4, protecting the c3 pawn. Queen takes a3, queen takes d5, queen takes c3. We see queen up to a8 with check. King comes down to h7. We see queen down to d5. We see h4 and h, and you can see this h pawn has done a lot in the game. Now it's freezing these pawns in position. It's not allowing the king to really get into any type of like better position. So the king is really just kind of stuck between these three, you know, these three squares, or 2 squares actually, or actually no, 3 squares. Yeah. Queen takes f7. We see queen to g3 with check. King comes down to g1. We see queen to e1 with check. King comes up to h2. Queen comes to g3, and we have an agreed draw. It is not a threefold repetition, but I mean, the next moves are going to be this. And that's just, I mean, we're getting back into the same position. So, I mean, seeing that, went ahead and went for a draw. I got caught in a similar position after pretty much getting demolished in a tournament. I had somebody, I was playing black, and somebody like, you know, this opponent sacked his rook on g7 in front of my face. And he was killing me, man. And I was able to like climb back. And I like pretty much got in this same exact position. And we just pretty much went back and forth. I don't know how he gave me that game, man, but we drew the game. But anyway, that is that game. It was pretty interesting kind of in there at the first, you know, with the, you know, the knight to c5 move. But I mean, you know, you kind of thinking like, you know, Wesley, so he had just became a grandmaster at this point. He is playing Eugene Torre. So, I mean, he might have been kind of second guessing some moves and stuff like that. I mean, I can imagine me being in his shoes in 2008, you know, being, I don't think he was even 15 years old yet. So, I mean, he probably was thinking, man, I'm playing a legend, Eugene. So, man, let me, you know, so maybe, you know, Wesley saw up today, maybe he'd have took a little bit more chances real quick. But that is that game. Hopefully you learned something from it. I appreciate you guys very much. Makito tayo mamaya pa alam. And I will see you guys next time.